Our planet still hides natural gems that very few people have been lucky enough to witness. They are wonders that seem as if the Earth itself carefully crafted them. Some are extreme corners of the world that feel lifted straight from the pages of a fantasy novel. Others are human-made structures, tucked away in remote locations. Today, we set out across the globe in search of hidden treasures, both natural and built by human hands. We'll travel to destinations that are nearly forgotten, yet astonishingly breathtaking. Benxi Water Caves, China. It is home to the longest navigable underground river known in the world today. Visitors board electric boats to glide along the river, surrounded by illuminated geological formations. This karst cave was formed about 5 million years ago by water gradually wearing away the rock. Its ceiling and walls are covered with stalactites and stalagmites that have taken on fantastical shapes. Certain chambers are so tall and wide that they resemble underground cathedrals. Lingtong Hanging Temple, China. Located in Fujian Province, in the southeastern part of the country, it is built into a cliff, making use of natural cavities in the volcanic rock. The structure appears to float in midair, supported by wooden pillars and stone foundations that blend into the mountainside. Unlike other temples that have been turned into museums, Lingtong remains an active Buddhist monastery with daily rituals. A thin, spring-fed waterfall cascades just above the temple, creating a natural curtain between worshippers and the abyss. Serra da Capivara National Park, Brazil. The park is renowned for its abundance of rock art and evidence suggesting a human presence far earlier than traditionally believed. It lies in a region of canyons and dry valleys within the Caatinga biome, a semi-arid ecosystem found only in Brazil. This landscape served as a natural refuge for early humans, as the rock walls provided shade, protection, and vantage points to observe the surroundings. Some of the paintings may be up to 20,000 years old, challenging the conventional theory that the first humans arrived in the Americas around 13,000 years ago. Beyond ritual scenes, the artwork also depicts hunting and wildlife that is now extinct. Enchanted City of Cuenca, Spain. It is considered a geological landmark in Spain and across Europe, a stone forest set in a landscape that feels straight out of a fairy tale. The name, Enchanted, comes from shepherds who believed the rocks held magical powers and were inhabited by spirits. Massive rock formations take on unusual shapes, resembling animals, objects, or even man-made structures. Around 90 million years ago, this area was part of the Tethys Sea, and when the waters receded, layers of rock were left exposed and later sculpted by erosion. Bay of Fires, Australia. This stretch of coastline in northeastern Tasmania is made up of vivid red rocks that, under the sun, look like flames along the shore. Today, the name is associated with the Red Stones, but in 1773, it referred to Aboriginal fires spotted from the sea. The area's large rock formations were created by tectonic processes that took place millions of years ago. Their striking color does not come from the stone itself, but from lichens that cover the surface in the damp marine environment. Jiuxiang Scenic Region, China. Located near Kunming in Yunnan Province, it is known as the Museum of Karst Caves. Over millions of years, underground rivers, rainfall, and tectonic movements shaped these caverns. The upper grottos feature stalactites, stalagmites, subterranean rivers, waterfalls, and natural bridges. In the lower levels, water flow and the collapse of certain ceilings have formed canyons and natural pools. Mount Popa, Myanmar. This extinct volcano rises above the country's central jungles, the result of eruptions that occurred about 250,000 years ago. At the summit stands the Tong Kalat Monastery, with its golden temples, while modest homes cluster at the base. It is regarded as the spiritual heart of the Nats, protective spirits in Burmese tradition, making it a destination for countless pilgrims. Crescent Lake, China. Shaped like a crescent moon, it appears as a jade jewel set amid the golden dunes of the Gobi Desert, an astonishing natural oasis. During the Han Dynasty, It served as a crucial resting point for travelers and caravans journeying along the Silk Road. Air currents that push sand from the base to the crest of the dunes have kept the water's surface remarkably clear. Poets from every Chinese dynasty have traveled here to write about the seemingly impossible contrast between cool water and desert heat. Dalol Geothermal Area, Ethiopia. Situated in northeastern Ethiopia, it is a region of extreme conditions linked to the African Rift. It ranks among the hottest places on Earth, with an average annual temperature exceeding 34 degrees Celsius or 93 degrees Fahrenheit. The planet's internal heat interacts with salts, gases, and groundwater, creating a one-of-a-kind chemical landscape. White, yellow, green, and orange salt deposits blanket the ground, while brightly colored acidic pools and mineral chimneys bubble to the surface. Water here can reach acidity levels comparable to concentrated laboratory acid, capable of dissolving metal. Prohodna Cave, Bulgaria. It lies at the heart of one of Europe's largest limestone formations, within the Iskar-Penega Geopark. The Iskar River carved the cave about 2.5 million years ago, when its course once ran through the mountain. Evidence of human presence dating back to the Copper Age has been discovered, suggesting it was used as a shelter. Researchers believe ancient local civilizations may have treated it as a sanctuary for fertility rituals and communication with the divine. Two large, nearly identical openings pierce the ceiling of the main chamber, resembling a gaze watching over visitors. They are known as the Eyes of God. Kakaban Island, Indonesia. Within it lies an unusual ecosystem, featuring a brackish lake filled with jellyfish that do not sting. This island is an uplifted atoll, a coral formation that rose from the ocean thousands of years ago, trapping seawater inside. The jellyfish species left isolated there evolved independently in an environment without natural predators. As a result, they lost their ability to sting, since they no longer needed their defensive cells for protection. Tottori Sand Dunes, Japan. Along the coast of the Sea of Japan, an unusual sight for the country unfolds. A vast field of golden dunes facing the water. Some dunes stand out for their height, with silhouettes the wind reshapes again and again. Their origins date back thousands of years, when the Sendai River carried sediment from the mountains to the shoreline. Breezes carve ripples and geometric patterns that shift daily, like a work of art in constant transformation. Horizontal Falls, Australia. Unlike traditional waterfalls, this natural phenomenon features water cascading sideways. It is caused by powerful tidal currents forced through two narrow gorges in Talbot Bay. As the tide rises or falls, an enormous volume of water attempts to squeeze through these tight passages. The surge rushes through with incredible force, creating the illusion of a waterfall flowing horizontally. Renowned naturalist Sir David Attenborough described them as one of the greatest natural wonders in the world, boosting their international fame. Porto de Galinhas, Brazil. Located in the country's northeast, this former fishing village has evolved into a major tourist destination. The name Porto de Galinhas dates back to a time when enslaved people were transported illegally and hidden beneath baskets of chickens. At low tide, reefs near the shore form natural pools that can be reached on foot or by boat. To the north lies Muro Alto Beach. Its name comes from the reef walls that protect much of its coastline. Chaka Salt Lake, China. Situated in Qinghai, its waters evaporate constantly, leading to large salt deposits. Because of the clarity with which it reflects the sky, it is also known as the Mirror of the Sky. In certain areas of the lake, local artists carve figures of characters, animals, and religious symbols into blocks of salt. White Pocket, United States. Within Vermilion Cliffs National Monument in northern Arizona lies this remote and spectacular geological site. The rocks date back to the Jurassic period, around 190 million years ago, when the region was a massive sea of sand dunes. Their surfaces display textures resembling cauliflower heads or folds of a brain, with bright white tones contrasted by red and orange streaks. Red hues come from iron oxidation, while the pale layers consist of pure quartz sandstone. The name pocket refers to natural hollows in the rock that collect rainwater. Tiger Cave Temple, Thailand. Near the city of Krabi, it sits in a lush valley surrounded by cliffs and tropical forest filled with ancient trees. Reaching the main sanctuary requires visitors to climb a staircase of 1,200 steps. At the summit stands a massive golden Buddha statue, encircled by small stupas and a viewing platform. Legend says that in the 1970s, a monk went to meditate in the cave and spotted a tiger roaming nearby, giving the site its name. Blyde River Canyon, South Africa. The Blyde River has carved it over millions of years, cutting through layers of rock. This is not the typical dry canyon. Vegetation is abundant, and the scenery appears green and vibrant. Natural forces remain at work as the canyon continues to change and evolve. Waterfalls spill from the high plateaus, bringing moisture and energy to the ecosystem. At the meeting point of the Blyde and Trua rivers, unusual rounded cavities can be found. Constant whirlpools spun stones and sand, drilling into the rock and shaping its surface. Stuðlagill Canyon, Iceland. The construction of a dam in 2009 reduced the flow of the Jökulsá River and revealed this striking gorge. Towering basalt columns line its walls, formed millions of years ago. As dense lava cooled slowly, it contracted and fractured into nearly perfect geometric patterns. The river runs through the canyon, turning a stunning turquoise color in summer. Reddish tones seen on certain rocks are caused by iron oxides. Teide National Park, Spain. Located on the island of Tenerife, it is the most visited national park in Spain and in all of Europe. The landscape is dominated by a vast volcanic caldera, crowned by Mount Teide, the highest peak in Spain. Although it is an active volcano, its last eruption occurred in 1798. Because its geological conditions closely resemble those of Mars, NASA uses the area to test instruments and robotic vehicles. This lunar-like terrain has served as the backdrop for famous films, and George Lucas even considered it for scenes in Star Wars. The park is also home to an astronomical observatory, thanks to its exceptionally clear skies, among the best in Europe. On cloudless nights, the Milky Way stretches across the sky as a luminous band, revealing thousands of stars to the naked eye. Tumpak Sewu Waterfalls, Indonesia. Known as the Indonesian Niagara, it is a breathtaking waterfall with Mount Semeru visible at its base. Fed by the Gelitik River, its waters originate on the slopes of the volcano. The falls form a semicircular curtain of multiple streams, cascading down a vegetation-covered rock wall. Over thousands of years, lava flows from Mount Semeru built up and created steep cliffs. Because of the immense volume of water plunging down, a thick mist rises from the canyon floor, soaking every visitor completely. Demenovska Cave of Liberty, Slovakia. It is the most visited cave in Slovakia and part of a vast underground system. Thanks to its pure air and high humidity, the cave has been used in treatments that help people with respiratory issues and allergies. It was officially discovered in 1921, although local residents were already aware of some of its entrances. Beyond stalactites and stalagmites, visitors can see calcite curtains and unusual wavy formations. Kizil Kup Mountains, Kazakhstan. Nicknamed the Tiramisu Mountains, they are located in the Mangistau region, deep in the desert of the Caspian Depression. Around 60 to 70 million years ago, this entire area lay beneath the ancient Tethys Ocean. Their striking range of colors comes from layers of sediment that accumulated on the seabed at different stages. Reddish and pink shades result from iron oxidation, while white and cream bands are deposits of chalk and limestone. Black stones of Pungo Andongo, Angola. Enormous monolithic rock formations rise above the savanna plain. Because of their height and difficult access, they once served as a natural fortress for the kings of the Ndongo Kingdom. Thousands of years of erosion have shaped the rocks so that many resemble animal silhouettes, such as elephants, whales, or lions. After rainfall, moisture and moss growth give them a deep, glossy, black tone that explains their name. Hukou Waterfall, China. It is located at a point where the Yellow River usually widens slow, is forced through an extremely narrow rocky passage. This is the only major waterfall in the world formed on a river heavily laden with sediment. The current crashes through with power and then bursts outward with astonishing force. During flood season, the water flow multiplies, and the waterfall widens so much that it seems to fill the entire gorge from side to side. What plunges over the edge is not just clear water, but a dense mixture of silt, clay, and sand that intensifies the spectacle. Le Mont Brabant, Mauritius. Positioned at the southwestern tip of Mauritius, it is a dramatic peninsula crowned by a massive stone monolith. It formed about 8 million years ago through volcanic hotspot activity that rose from the Indian Ocean. From the air, what appears to be a giant waterfall plunging into the depths of the sea comes into view. Right off the shore, the island's underwater plateau ends abruptly and drops into an abyss, creating a striking optical illusion. Strong coastal currents carry white sand and silt deposits away from the beaches. The result is the illusion of cascading water, though what is actually moving is sand beneath the surface. Folgefonna Glacier, Norway. Located within Folgefonna National Park, it is the third largest glacier in Norway. Its colors shift from the bright white of fresh snow to the deep blue of dense ice. Cracks form as the ice moves in response to the stresses placed upon it. Towering vertical ice blocks, known as soroches, appear when the glacier fractures while sliding over uneven terrain. They stand as evidence of the glacier's slow but steady advance. Namakwaland, South Africa and Namibia. For much of the year, it has a desert-like appearance with reddish tones, low shrubs, rocks, and rolling sands. Local residents call this phenomenon the miracle of spring. Native plants store moisture in underground bulbs, and their seeds wait patiently for the rainy season to sprout. When the rains arrive, growth happens quickly, and within weeks, the desert is blanketed in flowers. Batu Caves, Malaysia. They are a complex of natural caves formed around 400 million years ago. At the base of the hill stands a towering golden statue of the god Murugan, one of the main deities of the Tamil community. Reaching the main cave requires climbing 272 brightly colored steps. The surrounding area is home to long-tailed macaques that often approach visitors in search of food. At the end of the ascent, the cave houses a Hindu temple and, in certain sections, opens up to the sky. San Benedicto Island, Mexico. Part of the Revillagigedo archipelago, it is an uninhabited volcanic island in the Pacific Ocean. In 1952, the Barcena volcano erupted explosively, and within days, covered much of the island with lava and ash. Previously, birds and insects inhabited the island, but the eruption wiped out nearly all forms of life. Because of its recent formation, it has become a natural laboratory for studying how life recolonizes volcanic terrain. The landscape is rugged, marked by hardened lava flows, volcanic ash, and very little vegetation. Sanctuary of Las Lajas, Colombia. It is considered an architectural gem and an important South American pilgrimage site, built over the abyss of a canyon. According to tradition, in 1754, an indigenous woman and her deaf daughter saw an image of the Virgin on a rock during a storm. Constructed from gray and white stone, it has a solemn and mystical appearance amid the surrounding greenery. The sanctuary seen today is the fourth version of the temple. Earlier structures were small chapels replaced as the number of faithful grew. Luray Caverns, United States. They are the largest caverns in the eastern United States, located in the Shenandoah Valley. In 1878, a group of explorers noticed cool air rising from the ground and decided to dig, leading to their discovery. Their formation began about 400 million years ago, as acidic water slowly dissolved the underlying rock. The chambers also feature crystal clear pools that mirror the limestone formations hanging from the ceiling. Caminito del Rey, Spain. For years, it was known as the most dangerous walkway in the world. But today, it offers a safe yet thrilling experience that draws visitors from across the globe. The path is made up of wooden and metal walkways suspended above the Guadalhorce River. After decades of neglect, the route deteriorated so badly that only expert climbers dared to cross it, until it was restored in 2015 and reopened to the public. In certain sections, the gorge walls come so close together that only a narrow gap separates them. Fiordo di Furore, Italy. This is a captivating and highly photogenic corner of the Amalfi Coast. Despite its name, it is not a true fjord, but a ravine carved over thousands of years by a rushing stream. In the past, it served as a natural harbor for fishermen and an impregnable refuge that protected them from pirate attacks. Nowadays, it is a perfect summer beach, with a cooler microclimate than the rest of the coast, thanks to the towering rock walls surrounding it. Chapada da Mesa National Park, Brazil. Among Brazil's least explored destinations, it features rock formations that resemble giant tables. The region marks a transition zone between the Cerrado, the Caatinga, and the Amazon rainforest, giving it remarkable biodiversity. Flat-topped plateaus were shaped by a slow process of land erosion that began around 60 million years ago. In recent years, the area has gained scientific importance due to the discovery of fossils and dinosaur footprints from the Cretaceous period. Bisti Badlands, United States. With an otherworldly feel, it blends unusually shaped rocks, fossil beds, and a solitary atmosphere. Geologically speaking, its present appearance is quite young, having formed roughly 4,000 years ago. These hoodoos, also known as fairy chimneys, developed because a hard rock layer protects a softer layer beneath it. Over the centuries, wind and water eroded the softer rock, leaving behind a balanced stone cap. Wat Chalom Phra Kiat, Thailand. Often called the Temple of the Sky, this complex arises atop Mount Doi Prabat, a series of sharp peaks. Construction began in 2004, carried out by local workers and monks who devoted more than a decade to completing it. Every brick, every bag of cement, and each element of the pagodas was carried on their backs to the summit. Þrýnukkagígar volcano, Iceland. It is the only place in the world where visitors can safely descend into a magma chamber. An elevator is used for the journey, which typically takes between 6 and 8 minutes from the crater's rim. After an eruption, magma usually cools and solidifies within the volcanic conduit, forming a solid rock plug. In this case, however, the magma appears to have drained deep into the earth, leaving the vast chamber intact. Dacao Cave, China. This enormous sinkhole formed after the collapse of an underground cavern in the jungles of Guangxi. Its entrance is awe-inspiring, comparable in height to a skyscraper. Inside, untouched forests have survived for thousands of years, without human presence. At the bottom lies a massive opening leading to a cave that remains largely unexplored. Venturing deeper reveals gigantic chambers, like secret worlds hidden beneath the surface. Rainwater has seeped through the rocks for centuries, depositing minerals that give the formations their striking coloration. Bicaz Gorge, Romania. It is a spectacular natural pass in the central region of the Carpathian Mountains. Rock walls flanking the gorge rise more than 300 meters or 984 feet at their most vertical points. Over millions of years, the Bicaz River carved its way through layers of Jurassic rock. The narrowest stretch is known as Hell's Throat, where the cliffs seem to close in over the roadway. Noboribetsu, Hell Valley, Japan. Its origins date back about 20,000 years, following a massive eruption of Mount Hioriyama. Since then, the area has been marked by sustained geothermal activity. The valley releases roughly 10,000 liters of water per minute. Up to 11 different types of hot springs can be found here, including sulfurous, saline, and iron-rich waters, each offering distinct therapeutic benefits. Skogafoss, Iceland. It is located on the Skogor River, near the small village of Skogar and the Eyjafjallajökull volcano. The waterfall has an almost perfectly rectangular shape and produces a heavy mist as the water crashes to the ground. It has appeared in major Hollywood productions such as Thor, The Dark World, and the series Vikings, and it is also a frequent setting in music videos. Tolbalchik Volcano, Russia. Where Russia reaches toward the Pacific in Kamchatka. This active volcanic complex rises in a remote, icy, and untamed land. It is part of the Pacific Ring of Fire, one of the most volcanically active regions on Earth. Rather than a single peak, it is a system made up of two large craters and numerous secondary cones. In 1975, it produced one of the major eruptions of the 20th century, completely transforming the landscape and marking a turning point in modern volcanology. Vast lava fields spread across the area, leaving behind a dark and lifeless terrain. Tara River Canyon, Montenegro. It is considered the deepest canyon in Europe, reaching 1,300 meters or 4,265 feet in depth. Over millions of years, the Tara River carved its way through the rock. People call it the Tear of Europe because of the exceptional purity of its waters, which can be drunk in many stretches. The Drdavica Tara Bridge, a symbol of Montenegro, spans the canyon high above the river. Its rushing waters make it an ideal destination for rafting, offering numerous rapids and breathtaking scenery. Ramang Ramang, Indonesia. Located in southern Sulawesi, it is a peaceful heaven of green rice fields and towering stone formations. Recognized as the third largest karst system in the world, it was shaped over millennia by tectonic activity. Mining companies have tried to extract marble from these mountains, but the local community succeeded in having the area declared protected. There are no roads leading to the village. The only way in is by traveling along the Puteh River. Ruyi Bridge, China. This bridge hangs above the Shenxianju Valley in the city of Taizhou, Zhejiang Province, in eastern China. It was designed by Heyun Chang, a renowned steel structure expert who was part of the team behind Beijing's National Stadium. After its inauguration, the design looked so unusual that thousands of people believed it was fake. Engineers created it not only to support the weight of thousands of visitors, but also to withstand the strong winds that sweep through the valley. Chahal Borj, Afghanistan. These are the ruins of medieval fortresses built to control trade routes and protect the valley. The site lies in the Bamyan region, a rugged and arid landscape that for centuries served as an important crossroads for commerce. The Chahal Burj means 40 towers in Persian, though the number 40 is often symbolic, representing abundance in Persian tradition. Most of the fortress was constructed from rammed earth, a common building material in the dry regions of Central Asia. Hashirgwewa Rocks, Japan. They stand aligned along the Pacific coast within the Yoshino-Kumano National Park area. The formation creates an almost perfectly straight line that appears man-made, even though it is entirely natural. At low tide, visitors can walk along the shore and approach the base of the rocks, while at high tide, they seem to float in the ocean. Sipoholan Hot Springs, Indonesia. They rise within an active volcanic setting connected to the tectonic system of the Great Sumatran Rift Valley. The ground looks as if it were coated in gypsum, but it is actually covered in mineral deposits left by hot water. Local temperatures and chemical conditions prevent vegetation from growing, enhancing the stark white appearance. As the thermal water flows and cools, it leaves behind fresh mineral layers. The process continues, though at a slow pace. Railay Bay, Thailand. Access is possible only by boat, since tall cliffs isolate it from the rest of the region. Millions of years ago, shallow seas covered this area, where transported particles gradually accumulated. With tectonic uplift and falling sea levels, the rock was exposed to tropical rains that slowly dissolved it. Several beaches lie within the bay, including Railay West, Railay East, and Phra Nang, separated by dramatic cliffs. To the northwest sits Hong Island, featuring an inner lagoon surrounded by steep rock walls. Skadar Lake National Park, Montenegro. The Crna-Yavica River flows into the Balkan natural treasure, largely defined by Lake Skadar. Seasonal rains in winter raise the water level, causing the lake to expand and flood nearby plains. As it enters the lake, the river curves broadly around a vegetation-covered hill, creating a scene reminiscent of a tropical fjord. During summer, much of the lake and the banks of the Crna-Yavica River are blanketed by a thick carpet of water lilies. On several small islands, medieval Orthodox monasteries still stand and remain active. Kurlingarfjall, Iceland. This is a remote region where volcanic and geothermal forces have shaped the landscape for thousands of years. The mountains display shades of red, yellow, and white due to mineral alteration caused by geothermal heat. Not far below the surface, magma warms the surrounding rock. Even in the heart of winter, fumaroles remain active, piercing through the snow. Groundwater heated by mineral-rich rocks softens the earth, turning it clay-like and forming bubbling mud pots. Møllefosset Waterfall, Denmark. Because of its location, climate, and the absence of visible buildings, many travelers describe it as the edge of the world. The waterfall plunges from a cliff directly into the Atlantic Ocean. For centuries, the site's isolation kept it almost unknown, yet today it stands as one of the most iconic landscapes of the Faroe Islands. Wadden Sea, Netherlands, Germany, and Denmark. It is not a deep sea, but a continuous system of intertidal mudflats and sandbanks. The area forms a transition zone between land and the North Sea, shielded by a chain of barrier islands that protect it from strong waves. This landscape constantly renews itself. When the tide goes out, the water retreats and exposes vast stretches of mud and sand. With the return of high tide, the sea floods the flats again, bringing sediments and nutrients that sustain the entire ecosystem. Nygardsbreen, Norway. It is an accessible and striking arm of Jostedalsbreen, the largest glacier in continental Europe. Visitors can get close enough to touch the ancient ice, always under strict safety guidelines. Even though it may look motionless, it is actually a river of ice that flows continuously. At times, natural caves form beneath the glacier. They are beautiful yet dangerous, as collapses have caused fatal accidents in the past. Chapada Diamantina, Brazil. Located in the state of Bahia, this region is a haven of biodiversity and landscapes shaped billions of years ago. During the 19th century, diamonds were found in riverbeds, sparking a rush that gave rise to towns such as Lençóis. Across vast stretches of time, wind and water sculpted the canyons, caves, and plateaus visible today. To the south lies Buraçao Waterfall, where the water takes on a dark reddish hue due to decomposing organic matter. Chocolate Hills, Philippines. Found on the island of Bohol, they form an expansive plain of nearly symmetrical, cone-shaped hills. Between 2 and 3 million years ago, the area remained underwater and accumulated thick deposits of coral fragments. After tectonic uplift raised the terrain, wind and rain gradually dissolved the rock. Although composed of limestone, they are covered in grass, making the landscape resemble a giant collection of green chocolate truffles. Torghatten, Norway. On the island of Torgat, a massive natural hole pierces straight through the mountain. Scientists agree that the tunnel formed during the last Scandinavian Ice Age, through the combined action of ice and water. According to Norse mythology, the opening appeared when the troll Histmanen chased the beautiful Lekamøya, and, realizing he could not catch her, shot an arrow that created the hole. Wansheng Stone Forest, China. It is considered the oldest stone forest in China, formed around 460 million years ago. Tectonic movements lifted what was once a seabed and shaped the present-day geology. The formations take on a wide range of shapes, including towers, mushrooms, swords, and even animal silhouettes. Ebon Ice Caves, United States. Geologically speaking, they are not true caves, but enormous curtains of ice. Each winter, water seeping from the cliffs freezes upon contact with Michigan's frigid air. Over time, the accumulated ice creates vertical walls and massive icicles. Their shape, thickness, and color vary every year depending on snowfall and temperature changes. Yerve el Agua, Mexico. In reality, they are mineral-based petrified waterfalls. Over thousands of years, water rich in calcium carbonate and other minerals flowed down the slope. These minerals gradually settled and hardened along the mountainside, forming white, rock-like structures. At the top, natural warm water pools resemble infinity pools perched at the edge of a cliff. Drina River House, Serbia. This small cabin sits precariously atop a rock in the middle of a fast-flowing Drina River. Its story began in the summer of 1968, when a group of friends who often swam there decided to build it. By 2019, floods has swept the house away 7 times, yet it has always been rebuilt. Bojira Desert, Kazakhstan. It is a vast natural depression surrounded by cliffs in an area with no roads, only tracks across dust and stone. Over millions of years, the seabed accumulated shells and the remains of microorganisms. When the sea retreated 20 to 30 million years ago, rain and the constant winds of Central Asia began carving the soft chalk. The site's emblem is the Bojira Fangs, 2 white chalk spires rising dramatically from the desert. Benagil Cave, Portugal. It opens with the golden cliffs that define this stretch of Portugal's southern Atlantic coast. The cave formed after part of the roof of a cavity at the base of the cliff collapsed. There is no access by foot. The most common ways to reach it are by boat or kayak. Once inside, visitors can relax on the sand or take a swim in the clear waters. Thor's Well, United States. This natural sinkhole at Cape Perpetua looks as if it were swallowing the ocean, filling and draining with every crashing wave. It is believed to have once been a sea cave whose roof eventually collapsed. Legend describes it as a gateway to the depths of Thor's Sea, the Norse god of thunder. Despite its striking beauty, the site can be dangerous because of unpredictable waves. Lassen Volcanic National Park, United States. Set in a landscape of intense geological activity, the park features volcanoes, fumaroles, and hot springs. The painted dunes stand out, formed from multicolored volcanic ash. Yet, the undeniable centerpiece is Mount Lassen, one of the largest volcanic plugs in the world. Bumpus Hell, a hydrothermal area, takes its name from a pioneer who suffered severe injuries after falling into a pool of boiling water. Visitors can observe bubbling mud pots and fumaroles releasing towering columns of steam. In the northern section of the park rises Cinder Cone, a striking volcanic cinder cone. At the end of the trail, sweeping views open up over the inner crater and the surrounding terrain. Tunnel of Love, Ukraine. It is a natural passage created by dense greenery arching over a set of railway tracks. During the Cold War, the forest was planted thickly to conceal the transport of military supplies to a nearby secret base. A popular belief says that if a couple walks through the tunnel and makes a heartfelt wish, it will come true. Ijen, Indonesia. In eastern Java lies this still active volcanic complex. Within it sits a crater with a hostile, toxic, and visually stunning atmosphere. Its vivid color comes from a mix of dissolved minerals and extreme acidity. Falling into it would be fatal within minutes. Miners installed pipes to channel sulfuric gases, which cool into liquid sulfur and eventually harden into bright yellow blocks. It is regarded as one of the toughest jobs on Earth due to corrosive fumes, intense physical labor, and volcanic heat. The famous blue flames are sulfuric gases that ignite upon contact with oxygen as they escape. Prometheus Cave, Georgia. Often called Georgia's underground cathedral, it impresses visitors with its monumental scale and geological formations worthy of a Jules Verne novel. Discovered in 1984 by a team of Georgian geographers, it was not until 2010 that the government developed it into a tourist attraction. The complex includes 22 chambers in total, though only 6 are open for exploration. Because of the high humidity and clean air, many believe the cave's environment benefits people with respiratory conditions, such as asthma. Akhmas Cave, Kazakhstan. Its defining feature is a tall, rounded ceiling resembling the dome of a mosque, which inspired its name. Considered a sacred site, it draws pilgrims seeking prayers and spiritual peace. Outside, the climate is dry and scorching. Yet, inside the cave, the atmosphere remains cool and stable, allowing abundant vegetation to grow. Nevado Hoyos del Salado, Chile and Argentina. Rising to nearly 6,900 meters, or 22.637 feet, it is the tallest volcano on Earth, located on the border between Argentina and Chile. The peak stands within the Puna de Arasama, a region known for its extreme aridity. On its slopes and within its craters lie small lakes at extraordinary elevations, setting records for liquid water bodies at such heights. These waters contrast sharply with the surrounding desert, an area that receives minimal rainfall. Several species of flamingos use them as feeding grounds, thriving on microorganisms that inhabit the salty water. Baradla Cave, Hungary. It is the crown jewel of the Agtalek Karst complex, an underground world that feels straight out of a fantasy novel. Humans have known of the cave for thousands of years, using its entrance as shelter and as a place of worship. It is possible to walk through its interior from Hungary into Slovakia. During the Cold War, it was one of the few places where the Iron Curtain could be crossed. Lagunas de Montebello National Park, Mexico. The park was created to protect a unique cluster of lagoons and temperate forest. The waters display shades of turquoise, deep blue, emerald green, and even violet, depending on mineral content and sunlight. Over thousands of years, water dissolved the rock, forming natural cavities that later filled, giving rise to more than 50 lagoons. Thanks to its elevation, Montebello enjoys a cool climate, with pleasant temperatures even in summer. Fairy circles Namibia. Millions of bare circles bordered by taller grass are scattered across the dry grasslands of the Namib Desert. They appear only in sandy soils within regions that receive very little annual rainfall. These formations are not permanent. They emerge, expand, and eventually vanish over cycles lasting between 30 and 75 years. One theory suggests that termites of the species Samotermes alocaris create the circles by feeding on roots, leaving grasses to grow around the edges. Roebuck Bay, Australia. Near Broome, in the Kimberley region, this vast and shallow bay opens into the Indian Ocean. The surrounding terrain consists of iron-rich sandstone, giving the soil and cliffs their reddish hue. Tidal variations can be dramatic, reshaping the landscape within just a few hours. The striking red and blue contrast is geologically rare, as few places combine an intense red desert with such a clear tropical sea. Adam Kayalar, Turkey. The area is dotted with thousands of rock columns that resemble human figures, warriors, or petrified animals. They formed about 65 million years ago, when sand and gravel compacted under immense pressure on the floor of an ancient sea. Over time, wind and water eroded the softer rock, leaving behind these striking chimneys. Uralsky Mars, Russia. In the Ural Mountains, within the Sverdlovsk region, lies this former bauxite mine. Reddish tones dominate the ground due to the high concentration of iron and aluminum oxides in the soil and rocks. While the surrounding taiga is dense and green, almost no plants grow here because of the soil's acidity. Geologists use the site as a terrestrial analog to better understand processes that create landscapes similar to those on Mars. Stelvio Pass, Italy. It is the highest paved mountain pass in the Eastern Alps and the second highest in the entire Alpine range. Its route and iconic hairpin turns twist dramatically along the mountainside. Reaching its summit ranks among the most prestigious achievements in professional cycling. dangerous conditions and towering snow walls force authorities to close the pass from November until late May. Miradouro da Lua, Angola. This viewpoint features a series of cliffs formed in clay-rich terrain. Its name, meaning viewpoint of the moon, comes from the barren, rugged, and vegetation-free landscape that closely resembles the lunar surface. Although the formations appear solid, they are fragile, as clay erodes quickly under heavy rainfall. Geologists are particularly drawn to the site because the visible rock layers reveal the geological history of Angola's coastline. Etosha National Park, Namibia. Its name means the Great White Place, referring to the vast salt pan so large it can be seen from space. Numerous natural and artificial waterholes surround it, acting as magnets for wildlife. Given the arid environment, life in the park revolves entirely around these vital water sources. Etosha's elephants are among the largest in Africa, although their tusks tend to be shorter due to mineral deficiencies in the soil. Alpstein, Switzerland. In the Swiss Prealps, this region stands out for packing steep terrain and deep valleys into a relatively small area. Within short distances, gentle meadows give way to demanding high mountain trails. The local geology has carved sharp ridges and dramatic cliffs that give the landscape a striking character. Among its peaks rises Ebn Alp, which for 10,000 years has served as a natural refuge, with caves once inhabited by humans. Beneath the summit sits a cliffside inn, offering sweeping views of the Alps. Nearby lies Sialpsee, an alpine lake encircled by mountains that make it feel almost cut off from the world. Tassil and Ager National Park, Algeria. In the heart of the Sahara Desert, this vast plateau stretches across the Djannet region. Thousands of sandstone pillars resembling petrified trees form a stone labyrinth unlike anywhere else on Earth. Wind has sculpted the soft sandstone into shapes that look like ghostly cities. The park's most mysterious area lies in its central and western sections. Rock paintings depicting anthropomorphic figures appear here. Which explorer? Henry Lott, nicknamed Martian Gods because of their unusual attire and round heads. In Sephar stands the enigmatic Great God of Sephar, located in one of the regions with the highest concentration of Saharan rock art. Kayatur Falls, Guyana. It is one of the world's largest single-drop waterfall by volume, combining extreme height with a powerful flow. The water plunges freely for 226 meters, or 741 feet, making it about 5 times taller than Niagara Falls. Because of its remote location, access is usually by small aircraft from Georgetown, the country's capital. Bardenas Real, Spain. This striking semi-desert landscape has an almost lunar appearance. Its soil consists of clay, gypsum, and sandstone deposited over millions of years. Sparse vegetation, along with wind and torrential rains, has sculpted the soft rock into formations that resemble castles. The park's symbol is a fairy chimney shaped like a stone tower topped with a cap rock. Charen Canyon, Kazakhstan. Often compared to Arizona's Grand Canyon for its scale and reddish rock formations. It was carved over millions of years by the Karen River, and wind erosion acting on sandstone and sedimentary rock. Local legends speak of spirits inhabiting the canyon's crevices, inspired by the strange sounds produced by the wind. The so-called Valley of Castles is easily walkable, allowing visitors to stroll along the bed of what was once a prehistoric river. Petrified Forest National Park, United States. Here, time seems frozen 200 million years in the past, transforming fallen trees into colorful stone gems. What appear to be wooden logs are actually solid pieces of quartz and chalcedony that preserve the shape of the original timber. vivid hues come from minerals such as iron, manganese, and cobalt that seeped in during the fossilization process. A closer look reveals clusters of crystals within the trunks, turning each fragment into a true natural gem. Makhtesh Ramon, Israel. Located in the heart of the Negev Desert, it is the largest erosion crater on the planet. Intense geological wear has exposed rock layers dating back 220 million years. Walking across the crater floor feels like stepping through pages of Earth's geological history. Its resemblance to Mars is so striking that the Israeli Space Agency uses it to train and test missions. Sumidero Canyon, Mexico. This breathtaking gorge lies in the state of Chiapas, in southeastern Mexico. The immense force of the Grijalva River, combined with tectonic movements, carved this colossal abyss. At the canyon's base, the climate is hot and humid, while the upper rim enjoys cooler temperatures. Exploration is possible either by boat along the river or from scenic viewpoints above. Taroko National Park, Taiwan. Situated on Taiwan's eastern coast, its name, in the language of the indigenous Truku people, means magnificent and splendid. The Suhua Highway winds along the rugged shoreline, linking the cities of Suao and Hualien. Tectonic forces push marble upward as the river simultaneously erodes it, creating sheer vertical walls. Because of dramatic elevation changes, visitors can travel from tropical heat to conifer forests in just 2 hours. Belogradchik Rocks, Bulgaria. Their formation began 200 million years ago, when the region lay beneath shallow seas. Tectonic uplift later raised the land, and rain and wind sculpted the stone into its present shapes. Today, the landscape features towers, pillars, and striking natural figures. Blending into the scenery, the Belogradchik fortress was built in the Middle Ages, using the rock formations as part of its defense. Afyonkara Hisar, Turkey. The city's history is closely tied to the massive rock that dominates its center. Karahisar literally means Black Castle, referring to the dark volcanic stone. The earliest fortifications date back 3,400 years, when the Hittite king, Mursili II, built a strategic stronghold there. Thanks to its position at the crossroads of major trade and military routes, it was successfully occupied by Phrygians, Byzantines, Seljuks, and Ottomans. Pamir Desert, Tajikistan. This high-altitude alpine desert lies in the roof of the world at extreme elevations. It formed from the collision of the Indian-Eurasian tectonic plates, creating a mountainous knot where the Himalayas, Karakoram, Hindu Kush, and Tian Shan converge. Surrounding peaks block moisture-bearing clouds, resulting in a dry climate with winters that can drop to minus 50 degrees Celsius, or minus 58 degrees Fahrenheit. The terrain consists of wide, dry river valleys, gravel plains, and turquoise salt lakes, framed by snow-capped summits. Pasu Cones, Pakistan. Like stone needles, these sharp rocky peaks rise dramatically in northern Pakistan within the Karakoram Range. The region remains geologically active, where the Indian and Eurasian plates continue to collide. Their summits are so narrow and pointed that they resemble carved spires, a rare sight even in major mountain systems. A glacier system in this area originates near Nanga Parbat, the 9th highest mountain in the world. Ice flows down its slopes, and on Nanga Parbat, it moves with unusual speed and force due to the steep gradient. This dynamic creates deep crevices, unstable seracs, and frequent collapses. Namib Naukluft National Park, Namibia. It protects a vast portion of the Namib Desert, considered the oldest desert on Earth at around 55 million years old. The park covers more territory than countries such as Switzerland or the Netherlands. Its dunes rank among the tallest in the world, some exceeding 300 meters or 984 feet, like natural sand skyscrapers. Along the coastline, something remarkable occurs. The desert ends abruptly at the Atlantic Ocean. For thousands of years, winds have carried sand inland, and the sea stands as the only true physical boundary. Within the park lies Dedvle, where dead trees about 900 years old still stand. They do not decompose because of the extreme conditions, remaining dark, twisted, and dry. The sun drained their internal moisture so quickly that they became almost mummified. Nearby dunes are home to the oryx, an antelope capable of surviving long periods with almost no water. General Carrera Lake, Argentina and Chile. Encircled by Andean mountains, glaciers, rivers, and wide Patagonia plains. This lake is one of the region's natural jewels. It formed during the last ice ages, when massive glaciers descended from the Andes and carved the rock. Its turquoise color comes from tiny suspended particles of glacial rock that reflect sunlight. On the western side, in Chilean Patagonia, rise the marble cathedrals, huge rock formations emerging from the water. They were shaped over millennia by the steady action of waves. Marble, though seemingly solid, is relatively soft. Accessible only by small boats, visitors can glide through the tunnels and watch light reflections dance across the walls. Huanglong National Park, China. Located in Sichuan Province, it is famous for its travertine terraces winding through an alpine valley. The name Huanglong means yellow dragon, referring to the scale-like pools of water. Nearby stands Jiaga Waterfall, a long cascade formed by deposits of calcium carbonate. The site is surrounded by pristine forests of ancient pines and firs that contrast with the white foam of the rushing water. Kerinci Seblat National Park, Indonesia. Stretching along the Bukit Barisan mountain range, it encompasses dense rainforests, peaks, active volcanoes, rivers, and waterfalls. Within a single park, landscapes shift from hot, humid jungle to chilly, high-altitude terrain, a rare contrast even in the tropics. Inside its boundaries rises Mount Kerinci, Indonesia's highest volcano, reaching 3,800 meters or 12,467 feet. From the summit on clear days, other volcanoes and endless expanses of rainforest come into view. Close by lies Telun Berisap Waterfall, whose name translates as Smoky Waterfall. Enedi Plateau, Chad. This mountain massif lies in the country's northeast, deep within a remote stretch of the Sahara Desert. Many describe it as an oasis in the desert because of its remarkable biodiversity and unusual geological formations. Much like Tassili and Ager, wind and water have shaped the plateau over millions of years, carving an intricate landscape. Hidden in certain areas are permanent natural pools that are vital for wildlife and nomadic caravans. Salt mines of Maras, Peru. Thousands of salt ponds form this complex in the sacred valley of the Incas, just outside Cusco on a steep Andean slope. The salt extraction system predates the Inca Empire and remains in operation today. It functions solely through gravity, with no pumps or artificial energy. Water flows through natural mountain channels. These ponds are passed down through generations and sustain the local community's economy. Melisani Cave, Greece. Although ancient, it remained unknown until 1951, when a Greek spelunker explored its interior. It is often called the Cave of the Nymphs because, according to legend, these mythical beings once rested there. Located on the island of Kefalonia, this natural wonder hides a crystal-clear underground lake. Its formation began thousands of years ago, when water eroded the rock and eventually caused the roof to collapse. Hobidi Kamani, Bulgaria. This unique natural phenomenon consists of stone columns rising from sandy ground. For a long time, they were thought to be fossilized tree trunks, but they are actually mineral structures created by geochemical processes. Their origins date back about 50 million years, when the region was covered by the sea. Vila Franca Islet, Portugal. What can be seen today is the crater of an underwater volcano that sank and became inactive thousands of years ago. The crater center is filled with seawater, forming a natural pool connected to the ocean. Because of its circular shape, when viewed from above, it is often nicknamed the Princess Ring of the Azores. Agua Azul Waterfalls, Mexico. They are located in the mountainous region of Chiapas, surrounded by lush, evergreen rainforest. Rather than a single waterfall, the site features multiple cascades that create natural pools. Constant mists keep the surrounding humidity at nearly 100%. Its almost unreal beauty has made it a filming location for international movies and television commercials. Vikos Gorge, Greece. This monumental canyon was carved by the Voidomatis River over millions of years, with walls that drop almost vertically. The upper rim is dry, sunny, and windy, while the canyon floor remains cool, damp, and shaded. The Voidomatis River boasts some of the cleanest waters in Europe, fed by underground springs. Kawah Putih, White Volcano, Indonesia. Inside a volcanic crater lies this turquoise lake, surrounded by a barren gray landscape infused with sulfur. The setting feels surreal and ghostly, with dark dried trees encircling the water as columns of sulfurous steam rise into the air. It is one of the few volcanic lakes in the world whose color changes constantly within hours or days. In ancient times, locals avoided the site after noticing birds flying over the crater would fall dead due to toxic gases. Yasser Volcano, Vanuatu. It ranks among the most accessible active volcanoes on Earth. Its eruptions are so frequent that many describe it as a volcano that never stops breathing. Under supervision, visitors can stand at the crater's edge and witness explosions up close. For island residents, Yasser is a living spiritual being tied to ancestral forces and traditional rituals. Panjin Red Beach, China. Located in the Liaohe River Delta, this colorful wetland changes its appearance throughout the year. It serves as a crucial stopover for migratory birds, and its striking hue comes from a plant known as Soeda salsa. This species is one of the few that can withstand high saline and alkaline soils. The plant begins growing in April and gradually turns a vivid red as it absorbs minerals and salt from the ground. Karanlık Canyon, Dark Canyon, Turkey. It lies in eastern Anatolia, where the Euphrates River has cut through marble mountains. Local residents began carving this route in 1870, and it took 132 years to complete using only hand tools and dynamite. In certain sections, the gorge narrows so dramatically that sunlight barely reaches the river below. Across 38 tunnels, the path zigzags along the cliffs, opening up natural viewpoints suspended above the abyss. Lake Kel-Su, Kyrgyzstan. This high-altitude alpine lake lies in eastern Kyrgyzstan, close to the Chinese border in a remote and sparsely populated region. During dry periods, its water level can drop dramatically or even vanish, draining through underground fissures. It formed when a natural cavern collapsed and was later filled by groundwater, creating something like a flooded tunnel. Godafoss Waterfall, Iceland. Located in the northern part of the country, its name means Waterfall of the Gods. In winter, much of the cascade freezes into icy columns, natural sculptures, and translucent blocks. According to tradition, around the year 1000, the leader Thorgey threw pagan idols into the falls after accepting Christianity as the official religion. Banggai Island, Indonesia. This archipelago sits in eastern Indonesia off the eastern coast of Sulawesi in central Sulawesi province. Geologically, it lies in one of the most active regions on Earth, where several Pacific plates interact. Some islands, such as Peleng, hide crystal-clear inland lakes formed through karst processes. The water is so transparent that the bottom is visible, revealing rocks, submerged logs, and white sandbanks. Its intense blue color comes from the pristine environment and the presence of minerals. Khao Sok National Park, Thailand. Within Southeast Asia, This ancient and diverse natural area stands out, covered in rainforest and well-preserved karst formations. Humidity and heat create morning mists that give the park a mystical atmosphere. Scientists estimate that this rainforest has remained largely undisturbed for tens of millions of years. Over centuries, the steady action of the sea sculpted the rock, forming solitary limestone pillars rising from the water. At the heart of the park lies Chaolan Lake, created in the 1980s with the construction of the Rajapraha Dam. Its waters flooded former valleys and left hundreds of peaks emerging like jungle-covered islands. Punao River, Brazil. It flows into the Atlantic Ocean, forming a calm estuary before merging with the sea. From above, the river traces soft, winding curves across pale sand. The darker tone of its waters, caused by organic matter, creates a striking contrast with the ocean's blue. Hutt Lagoon, Australia. It lies close to the Indian Ocean, separated from the sea by a narrow strip of dunes and coastal vegetation. Its pink hue comes from microalgae capable of producing large amounts of beta-carotene. Although it appears to be a natural inland lake, it is actually a hypersaline body of water connected to the ocean and fed by seepage. Tuvalu. In the heart of the Pacific, between Hawaii and Australia, sits this tiny nation. It consists of 3 coral islands and 6 atolls spread across a vast expanse of ocean. Tuvalu ranks as the 4th smallest country in the world, after Vatican City, Monaco, and Nauru. The island formed from coral reefs that grew atop ancient submerged volcanoes. As those volcanoes slowly sank, corals continued building upward toward the surface, creating extremely low-lying strips of land. Just over 10,000 people live in the country, with the sea serving as the main source of food, work, and cultural identity. Tamu Waterfall, Mexico. It appears where two rivers converge, creating a powerful cascade within a deep canyon. In the dry sea, the flow diminishes, but during the rainy months, it becomes immense, wide, and thunderous. Mutnovsky Volcano, Russia. It is part of the Pacific Volcanic Arc in Kamchatka, an area known for intense geothermal activity. Glaciers and snowfields surround the volcano. From inside its crater, white steam plumes and jets of sulfurous gas rise into the air. In some craters, highly acidic lakes have formed due to the volcanic gases dissolving in the water. Bastalafossar Waterfall, Denmark. Here, Lake Servaksvatn, the largest in the Faroe Islands, overflows and pours into the Atlantic Ocean. The lake appears suspended high above the sea, as if floating over the ocean. Many visitors describe it as a place where the land seems to end abruptly before the endless Atlantic. Lake Tuz, Turkey. It is Turkey's second largest lake and ranks among the world's most extensive hypersaline lakes. With a salt concentration reaching up to 33%, it sometimes surpasses the salinity of the Dead Sea. During winter and spring, the lake becomes a giant mirror that clearly reflects the sky. In summer, intense heat evaporates the water, leaving behind a crisp white crust of salt. La Bouche Underground River, France. It holds the record as the longest navigable underground river in Europe, open to the public. The site consists of a network of caves carved by the La Bouche River deep within the French Pyrenees. It was first explored in 1908 by speleologist Edward Alfred Martel, widely regarded as the father of modern speleology. Cerros de Mavicure, Colombia. These are three towering stone monoliths rising like guardians of the jungle along the banks of the Inarita River. They belong to the Guayana Shield, a geological formation estimated to be around 2 billion years old. Composed mainly of granite and quartz, they display a smooth, grayish appearance. Laguna Colorada, Bolivia. Near the border with Chile lies this salt lake with a striking bright red color caused by pigments in certain types of microscopic algae. The reddish waters contrast with wide white deposits of borax and sodium that resemble small islands. It serves as the primary breeding site for the James flamingo, a species once believed extinct until it was rediscovered. Interestingly, flamingos acquire their pink hue by feeding on the red algae and microorganisms found in the lake. Lake Agco, Philippines. At the foot of Mount Apo sits this geothermal site where hot springs and bubbling mud pools converge. High concentrations of sulfur and other volcanic minerals rising from deep within the earth tint the mud in shades of gray and yellow. For the indigenous Manobo tribe, it is home to guardian spirits and healing rituals are performed along its shores. Lake Geyser, Russia. Rather than a classic geyser, it is a small geothermal lake where underground gases rise to the surface. Its turquoise shade comes from mineral-rich clay lining the bottom. The motion of gases in clay creates spirals and circles that shift continuously. Ban Guk Waterfalls, Vietnam and China. They are framed by mountains, green rice fields, and lush tropical vegetation. The falls rank fourth among the largest transnational waterfalls in the world, after Iguazu, Victoria, and Niagara. Fed by the Khe Sanh River, the water begins in China, flows through Vietnam, and then re-enters Chinese territory. Cascading in 3 tiers, the falls create multiple streams that resemble white silk threads against the greenery. Visitors can board bamboo rafts that approach the base of the falls, close enough to feel the mist and hear the thunderous roar. Rio Tinto, Spain. This landscape in the province of Huelva is famous for the deep red color of its waters and its highly acidic environment, hostile to most forms of life. The river contains high concentrations of iron, copper, and zinc due to mineral dissolution from the region's mines. Mining activity here dates back 5,000 years, with evidence from ancient civilizations. Despite its extreme acidity, the river teems with microorganisms that derive energy from rocks and metal oxidation. Because of its resemblance to Martian terrain, NASA has used the site to study the possibility of life on other planets. Lipa Cave, Serbia. Opened to the public in 2015, it forms part of the vast underground network of the Lovćen region. It is one of the few caves in southeastern Europe adapted for tourism. Although documented in the 19th century by foreign explorers, local residents had known of it for generations. Inside, an underground river flows through the cave, creating interior waterfalls that only some visitors get to see. Bladug Kuwu Mud Volcano, Indonesia. On the island of Java, the ground constantly releases hot mud, steam, and gases in an ongoing geological display. It is fueled by volcanic gases rising through underground layers rich in water and clay. When gas pressure builds sufficiently, the mud bursts to the surface in sudden giant bubbles. Lini Fjord, United Kingdom. On Scotland's west coast, it opens to the Atlantic and stretches into the mountains of the Highlands. It connects to the Caledonian Canal, a historic waterway that crosses Scotland from coast to coast. Stalker Castle, dating back from the 14th century, stands on a small island within the fjord. At low tide, it is possible to walk to the island, while at high tide, the castle is completely surrounded by water. Dean's Blue Hole, Bahamas. At 202 meters deep, it is the deepest known marine blue hole in the world. In the past, island residents avoided swimming nearby because of myths about a sea creature dragging people into the abyss. Today, it is a global destination for freediving, thanks to its sheltered waters and minimal strong currents. Taal Volcano, Philippines. On the island of Luzon, in Batangas province, it stands out for its intense volcanic activity. In January 2020, it released a massive ash plume, forcing tens of thousands of people to evacuate. The volcano rises from within Taal Lake, a vast volcanic lake formed by ancient eruptions. At the center of that lake sits a volcanic island, and within it lies an active crater holding another lake. Inside this inner lake rests a small islet, often described as the island within a lake, within a crater, within an island. Lovćen National Park, Montenegro. Considered the soul of Montenegro, it lies within the Dinaric Alps massif, overlooking the Adriatic coast. Its location creates a meeting point between Mediterranean and alpine climates, resulting in remarkable biodiversity. Travelers usually reach it from the coast via the famous Kotor Neguse Road, with 25 hairpin turns and dizzying views. The name Montenegro is said to have been inspired by the dense black pine forests that once covered these mountainsides. Sulak Canyon, Russia. Among the mountains of Dagestan in southern Russia, this immense gorge plunges dramatically into the landscape. It ranks among the deepest canyons in Europe, surpassing the Grand Canyon in certain sections. The river below shines in brilliant turquoise, colored by dissolved minerals and fine suspended sediments. Exploring it on foot is challenging, as the rugged terrain and lack of trails mean many areas are accessible only by air or water. Karijini National Park, Australia. In Western Australia's remote Pilbara region stretches this land of iron-rich plateaus and canyons dating back about 2 billion years. It is the traditional territory of the Banjima Aboriginal people, whose ancestors have lived here for tens of thousands of years. Banded iron formations dominate the geology, painting the canyon walls in shades of red, purple, and gold. Some gorges contain crystal-clear natural pools fed by springs and rainfall. Sauge Cave Valley, France. This valley features dozens of interconnected caves that have sheltered animals and humans for hundreds of thousands of years. Geologically, it is an anomaly, an area of very ancient rock where caves are not usually expected. It serves as a kind of archive of human evolution, preserving traces that range from prehistoric times to the Middle Ages. So, Mariri Lake, India. Amid the icy peaks of the Indian Himalayas lies this deep blue lake that seems to float among the mountains. Local communities regard it as sacred, believing spirits dwell within its waters. It is fed by pure, frigid streams that descend from surrounding summits into its basin. William Bay National Park, Australia. Located in the region known as the Great Southern, it is famed for wild scenery, mild weather, and crystal clear waters. Compared with the Great Barrier Reef or the Great Ocean Road, it feels quieter and less crowded. At Elephant Rocks, massive boulders resemble elephants marching towards the sea. Hyfoss Waterfall, Iceland. It lies in the Fossa River Valley, deep in the country's interior, within a sparsely populated volcanic region. Beside it, a twin cascade named Granny plunges in parallel, creating the striking image of two falls side by side. The canyon beneath them was shaped by ancient lava flows and past eruptions. Its volume depends on snow and glacier melt, so it changes with the seasons. Calderon Hondo Volcano, Spain. It is considered one of the best preserved volcanic cones on Fuerteventura in the Canary Islands. The volcano belongs to a relatively recent series of eruptions in geological terms, dating between 30 and 50,000 years ago. Its slopes display a palette ranging from black and ochre to vivid reds. Fossa Waterfall, Denmark. This is the tallest waterfall in the Faroe Islands, located on the island of Streymoy, near the village of Haldersvik. Water first drops over an upper ledge before continuing down a longer, steeper second tier. Fed by mountain streams nourished by frequent rain and snowmelt, it descends a rocky cliff toward the ocean. Each of these places tells a story written over millions of years. Stories shaped by fire, ice, wind, and time. Thank you for joining us on this journey. We'll see you on the next adventure.